Over 18 months, he'd created fake vendors, submitted fraudulent invoices, transferred money into offshore accounts he'd set up under shell companies. The money was being stashed away, presumably for his next disappearing act, because that's what Isaac Porter did when things got complicated. He disappeared and started over with a new identity. But Emma had discovered the embezzlement too. In her evidence folder, Detective Ortega found screenshots of bank statements, copies of suspicious invoices, a detailed spreadsheet tracking money that had gone missing from church accounts.
Emma had worked in medical billing for years before becoming a dental hygienist. She understood bookkeeping, knew how to spot irregularities. When she'd started questioning Jacob's identity, she'd also started looking at their finances. And she'd found discrepancies, large deposits that didn't match his pastoral salary, offshore accounts she didn't know about, money moving in ways that didn't make sense. She'd documented everything. She was building a case not just for bigamy and identity theft, but for embezzlement too.
Emma wasn't just planning to divorce Jacob. She was planning to turn him in to the authorities. The email she'd sent to the divorce attorney also mentioned needing legal advice about reporting financial crimes committed by a spouse. She was going to expose everything: the double life, the stolen identity, the embezzlement. Isaac Porter would have faced decades in prison. His carefully constructed life would have collapsed entirely. So he killed her before she could make that call.
If you want to uncover more chilling true crime stories and see justice exposed, subscribe to Crime Vaults as we bring light to the darkest true crime cases and never miss the secrets hidden in plain sight.
The toxicology report took 4 weeks to come back. When it finally arrived, it confirmed what I'd suspected from the beginning. Emma Rodriguez Walsh didn't die of natural causes. She was murdered. The report showed lethal levels of digoxin in her system. Digoxin is a heart medication used to treat conditions like atrial fibrillation and heart failure. In therapeutic doses, it's safe. In high doses, it causes cardiac arrest. The heart simply stops. Emma didn't have a prescription for digoxin. She didn't have any heart conditions, but we found a bottle of digoxin hidden in Isaac Porter's car trunk, wrapped in a towel and stuffed behind the spare tire.
The prescription bottle bore the name of Eleanor Hoffman, an elderly member of Cornerstone Fellowship who died 6 months earlier from heart failure. She'd been under Jacob Walsh's pastoral care during her final weeks. He'd visited her regularly, prayed with her, supported her family through her decline, and apparently he'd taken her medication.
Eleanor's daughter confirmed that after her mother's death, they'd cleaned out her apartment and disposed of most of her belongings. But she couldn't account for all of her mother's medications. She assumed the hospice nurse had taken them for proper disposal. She never suspected that Pastor Jacob had pocketed a bottle of digoxin. He'd kept it for months, waiting, planning, knowing that someday he might need a way to make someone disappear without obvious violence, without mess, without suspicion.
Digoxin in high doses is nearly perfect for murder. It mimics a heart attack. The symptoms, nausea, confusion, irregular heartbeat, eventual cardiac arrest, can be mistaken for a medical emergency. Unless someone is specifically looking for it in a toxicology screen, it can go undetected. But Isaac Porter made mistakes, and those mistakes would ultimately convict him.
Security footage from a pharmacy 3 blocks from the Walsh residence showed Isaac purchasing over-the-counter sleep aids on March 15th, 2 days before Emma's death. He paid cash, kept his head down, tried to avoid the cameras, but we got him on video. We believe he crushed those sleeping pills into the wine the night of March 16th, along with the digoxin. The sleep medication would ensure Emma fell into a deep sleep quickly, preventing her from realizing something was wrong. The digoxin would do the rest.
The evening of March 16th, 2019, Isaac Porter came home from a church meeting around 6:30 p.m. He'd stopped at the grocery store and purchased ingredients for pasta primavera, Emma's favorite meal. He'd also bought a bottle of Merlot, her preferred wine. He prepared dinner. They ate together at the dining room table. According to the forensic analysis of the scene, everything appeared normal, domestic, routine. 2 plates, 2 forks, 2 wine glasses. But only one of those glasses contained poison.
Isaac was meticulous. He drank from one specific glass, made sure Emma drank from the other. The glass we recovered from Emma's side of the nightstand tested positive for both digoxin and diphenhydramine, the active ingredient in the sleep aids. The glass from Isaac's side was clean. He watched her die in their bed, watched her heart slow, watched her breathing become shallow, watched the life drain from her eyes, and then he waited.
Isaac didn't call 911 immediately. He waited until morning, until enough time had passed that rigor mortis had set in, until Emma's body temperature had dropped enough to suggest she'd been dead for hours. He wanted it to look like he'd simply woken up next to her corpse, like a husband discovering a tragic loss. Then he made the call, calm, collected, playing the role of devastated spouse.
On April 3rd, 2019, 17 days after Emma's death, I arrested Isaac Porter at Cornerstone Fellowship. He was in his office, preparing for a memorial service in Emma's honor. The irony wasn't lost on me. When I told him he was under arrest for the murder of Emma Rodriguez Walsh, he didn't resist, didn't protest his innocence, didn't ask for a lawyer. He just stood up, put his hands out for the cuffs, and said something I'll never forget. He said, "Which name are you arresting?" Like it was all a game to him, multiple identities, multiple wives, multiple lives. He'd convinced himself he could keep all the balls in the air indefinitely. Emma's only crime was catching him in the act.
At the trial, I sat through every day of testimony. I heard the forensic pathologist explain how digoxin stops the heart. I heard the pharmacist testify about the stolen medication. I heard Detective Ortega walk the jury through the evidence, the browser history, the evidence folder, the timeline of Emma's discovery. I heard how Isaac had planned it, how he'd poisoned my sister while telling her he loved her, how he'd lain next to her corpse for hours, maintaining his facade, before calling for help. The prosecutors said he showed no remorse. Even when confronted with the overwhelming evidence, he remained emotionally flat, detached. The defense tried to paint him as mentally ill, a victim of dissociative identity disorder, someone who'd created alternate personalities to cope with childhood trauma. The jury didn't buy it. They saw what I saw, a calculating predator who killed to protect his secrets.
In November 2019, after a 3-week trial, Isaac Porter was convicted of first-degree murder, bigamy, identity theft, and embezzlement. He received life in prison without the possibility of parole. Lauren Brennan divorced him immediately after the verdict. She reverted to her maiden name, Hayes, and relocated with her children to another state to escape the media attention. Her son Ethan eventually found a bone marrow match through a donor registry and is currently in remission. Cornerstone Fellowship never fully recovered from the scandal. Membership dropped by 60%. The senior pastor resigned. The church eventually merged with another congregation and closed its original location.
Emma was 26 years old. She wanted children, wanted to build a family. She was kind and trusting and good. She believed in the man she married because he wore the collar of a pastor, because he spoke the language of faith. He used her belief against her. That's what I can't forgive. Not just that he killed her, but that he made her doubt herself first. In those final weeks, she must have questioned everything, her judgment, her faith, her reality. She must have felt so alone, carrying the weight of what she'd discovered, trying to decide what to do. And then he silenced her forever.
Cases like this remind me that the worst monsters don't look like monsters. They look like us. They speak our language, join our communities, even leave our churches. Isaac Porter was a chameleon, constantly reinventing himself to avoid consequences, always one step ahead of the truth. But even chameleons can't hide forever. Emma found the truth, and that truth, even though it cost her her life, is what finally brought him down. Her evidence, her research, her determination to expose his lies, that's what convicted him. She solved her own murder from beyond the grave.
Beyond DNA, beyond the genetic evidence that initially seemed to make no sense, beyond the biological mysteries that confused investigators, beyond the science, lay a story of deception so elaborate it defied belief. A stolen identity, a double life, a web of lies spanning multiple states, multiple families, multiple identities. And at the center of it all, a young woman who committed the fatal error of loving the wrong man and discovering the truth too late. Emma Rodriguez Walsh died on March 17, 2019, but her determination to uncover the truth, documented in screenshots, searches, and hidden files, ensured that justice would eventually find Isaac Porter, the man who killed her to keep his fractured life from shattering completely. In the end, the ultimate betrayal wasn't the bigamy, the stolen identity, or even the embezzlement. It was the murder of trust itself, the weaponizing of love to destroy the woman who offered it freely. Emma believed in redemption, in the possibility of change, in the fundamental goodness of people. Isaac Porter exploited every one of those beliefs until the moment when she finally saw through his mask, and when she did, he couldn't let her live. This has been Beyond DNA, the ultimate betrayal that pushed a California pastor to murder. The investigation into Isaac Porter's past continues. Detectives are working to determine if there may be other victims, other identities, other crimes committed during his years of deception. His parents, Thomas and Grace Porter, died in a humanitarian mission compound bombing in 2016 without ever knowing what became of their son. Jacob Brennan, the real Jacob Brennan, was buried in Eugene, Oregon in 2009. His grave bears an inscription chosen by his parents, "Gone too soon, forever loved." Neither his family nor Isaac Porter's victims will ever fully understand why Isaac chose to steal his friend's life, why he couldn't simply walk away and build something authentic. But perhaps that's the nature of men like Isaac Porter. They don't build, they steal. They don't love, they possess. They don't live, they perform. And when the performance is threatened, when the mask begins to slip, they destroy anything and anyone who might expose them. Emma Rodriguez Walsh deserved better. She deserved a real marriage, a real partner, a real love. Instead, she got a ghost, a man who was never really there, who could never really be known, who valued his secrets more than her life. Her family remembers her not as a victim, but as a fighter, a woman who refused to accept lies, who demanded truth even when that truth was dangerous. A woman who built a case against her killer with the same careful attention she brought to everything in her life. Justice may have come too late to save Emma, but it came, and in the end, that has to mean something.
If you want to uncover more chilling true crime stories and see justice exposed, subscribe to Crime Vaults as we bring light to the darkest true crime cases and never miss the secrets hidden in plain sight.